Today is Monday, June the 6th, 2020. You are at the Committee on Urban Redevelopment and Renewal and Planning. The meeting is now called to order. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Chairwoman Harris,
Present.
Vice Chairman Narducci,
Here.
Councilman Correa,
Present.
Councilwoman Castillo,
Present.
Councilman Espinal.
Present.
You have 5 present. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Let the record show that we have Council President Mathos joining us tonight, and also Councilman Taylor.
So
Are
noted.
there any other council people?
I don't see any.
Okay. And so tonight we have invited some guests to come and present. Before we get started, I would like for the solicitor to give us the legality of this meeting.
Sure. So back when the pandemic started, the governor issued an executive order allowing relaxed rules for open meetings. Specifically, she allowed for electronic or telephonic meetings, provided the public has the same access they would normally have if the meeting was in person. So provided the public has access to this meeting, which they do because we are streaming this, they also have the ability to call in and make public comment when they normally would, as if this was a live meeting. It meets all the requirements that the governor laid out to have these meetings electronically.
Thank you, Mr. Solicitor. As I understand that we're missing Wendy Nelson for our first item. I would like to take a motion to take an item out of order.
Motion to take item number 2 out of order, Madam Chair.
Second.
Motion been made by Vice Chairman Narducci, second by Councilwoman Castillo and Councilman Espinal. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Ayes have it. We're gonna move item 1 out of order, and then we're gonna go to item 2. Madam Clerk, could you please read item 2 into the record?
Item number 2 is a resolution requesting to change the address for the building identified as 30 Kennedy Plaza and 63 Westminster Street to 50 Westminster Street and 90 Westminster Street.
I understand that we have some documents that has to be entered into the record.
That is correct.
Madam Clerk, could you read those documents?
We have received 3 responses regarding the address change. The first is from the postmaster, and they state, we have received the proposal for the change of address for 63 Westminster Street and 30 Kennedy Plaza. We will be prepared for that if the proposal goes through. The tenants in each building will need to do a change of address for the changes, and we will need to update our address books to reflect this. They will need to know 2 things if this goes through. The first being that when will the change take effect, as we will need to approximately 10 days to process this for a smooth transition. And number 2, we have these 2 addresses listed as business addresses only, and will that remain as the case? If you need assistance from us, please feel free to contact me. That's from Christine Moore. The second letter is from Colonel Clements, and he states he does not have any objections. And the third is from Commissioner Parry, Acting Chief of the Fire Department, and he writes, Dear Councilwoman Harris, I am in receipt of your memorandum regarding the resolution requesting to change the address for the building identified as 30 Kennedy Plaza and 63 Westminster Street to 50 Westminster Street and 90 Westminster Street. After review, I respectfully oppose the address change for the reason that Westminster Street has odd numbers on the right side and even on the left. The numbering starts at 10, the Merchants Bank building, and 15, the old Hospital Trust building. The only exceptions are 1 Financial Plaza, which has a unique address, and 100 Westminster, the Paolino building, which according to the GIS should have an address between 75 and 97 Westminster. This building is on the right side of Westminster Street, so it should have an odd numbered address. I do not believe it is in the interest of public safety to have even numbers on both sides of the street. It is confusing when responders do not have local knowledge of deviations from standard numbering practices, which happens when we rely on other cities to provide mutual aid. Along with this opposition, I believe the city should require the Paolino building to change to an odd number for its address. Respectfully, Stephen M. Parry.
Uh, uh, the last meeting we had identified those documents. I think it's A, B, and C. Am I correct, Madam Clerk?
I am unsure, Madam Chair. I was not at that meeting, but we can
Okay.
make a motion to enter them as A, B, and C today.
Motion to enter as exhibits A, B, and C.
Motion been made by Vice Chairman Narducci, second by Councilwoman Costello. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. At this time, we have Mr. Palina here to speak on the behalf of this address change. It's a resolution I think that he has put before the council. I will hear from him first if that's a good order for the committee, if you want to hear from him first, and then we will hear from the commissioner. We are trying to make a decision. Obviously, this is not a decision that we could easily just pass. So I'm gonna weigh heavily on the committee to really pay attention to what we need to be able to make a decision on this tonight. All right, so right now, we would ask Mr. Palina identify himself, I believe, for the record, and join us, please.
Madam Chairperson, members of the committee, thanks for allowing me to testify in front of you today. I own 100 Westminster Street, and many years ago, when that building was being built, it was owned by Fleet National Bank. And at that time, I remember I was mayor of Providence, and Mr. Murray, who was the chairman of Fleet Bank, came to see me and asked me if it was possible if I could allow them to have the address of 100 Westminster Street there. Never ever thinking some 35 years ago that today I would own the building. And he explained to me that from a business standpoint, it would be helpful to them. It would be clean. It would be nice. It was a nice number. And so we went along with it. And the city council back in those days and the public safety commissioner in those days all supported it unanimously. I now, after owning that building, the building next to it is an old historic building. We're spending close to, I think, close to $20 million in that building to make it into a hotel, which quite frankly, I'm very scared of right now because of what's happening with the pandemic and people just aren't visiting hotels. But with that, we're trying to print stationery. We want to put together our website. We want to try to see if we can start marketing the property. And there's two addresses there. One has to do with where hopefully a restaurant will go. And the only property before it is one financial center. So I'm asking if that restaurant location could be 50 Westminster Street. And then the entrance to the hotel itself, I'm asking if that could be 90 Westminster Street. And that would be the address to the hotel. And then if that gets done, we can start doing some of our printed materials that we need done. And it would then fall in line with, I'd have 50, 90, and then I'd go to 100 Westminster Street. The next address after that would be 111 Westminster Street, which is an odd number. And that would be the Superman building that's been vacant for 7 or 8 years now. There's nothing across the street because there's a parking lot across the street that we own. And then after that, the other building across the street, I think, is the Turk's Head building, which I think that address is 1 Turk's Head Plaza. So I'm requesting if you could help us change the addresses to 50 and to 90 Westminster Street.
Thank you, Mr. Palina. At this time, we're going to hear from the commissioner and his concerns. Will you please identify yourself for the record?
Stephen Parry, Commissioner of Public Safety for the City of Providence.
Thank you for being here tonight.
Thanks for having me. And so as the letter stated, you know, switching from odd to even though there are 2 buildings that have been switched, the concern from the fire department is outlined in the letter that I sent to you, just raising a concern that when that occurs, and particularly when we have either firefighters not familiar with the properties downtown or mutual aid firefighters coming into providing some assistance, it gets confusing when there's odd and even on both sides of the road. It's not a huge significant concern, but if this continues, it brings a public safety concern as we respond in emergencies to buildings anywhere in the city. But I just wanted to put on the record that was the concern from the fire department for those reasons.
Any question from the committee?
I do, Madam Chair, Councilman Espinal.
Councilman Espinal. Thank you.
I would be interested to see what Mr. Paolino's response would be to the commissioner's concern. Mr. Paolino, what do you think about those concerns?
Mr. Paolino.
It wasn't a concern, I can tell you 35 years ago, by the Commissioner of Public Safety back then, or the post office or anybody else for that matter. And I think with the amount of investment that we're making, I believe what's going to happen is if, God forbid, if there's ever a fire or a problem, I think they're not only going to give you the address, but they're probably going to tell you it's the Beatrice Hotel. And so I don't see it as a major concern the way the commissioner does. He and I have had a conversation about this. We have a legitimate disagreement about it. I respect him. I respect his views. But we're trying to get economic development in the city. And I believe, and I've been in city government for a number of years myself, and I think what's going to happen is a dispatch is going to say, the Beatrice Hotel, 90 Westminster Street, there is a problem, please respond.
Thank you, Mr. Paolino. Going back to the commissioner, Madam Chair, if I may. Commissioner, you said that 2 buildings have already been switched?
Yes, from the odd and even sequencing, yes.
That was one financial center, I think the commissioner mentioned, and that's the.
Mr. Paolino.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You have the floor.
Just to follow up with the commissioner, have there been any problems with the fire and rescue responding? Have we had any history or any problems there?
We have not. So as the mayor was pointing out, it's one financial plaza. And so that's a unique building, and anyone that's familiar with downtown will know. On the wrong side of the road, on the wrong side of the street, in 100 Westminster, which Mr. Paolino owns now. Look, it's not a huge, concern. It's just if we as a city continue to allow these exceptions, it's going to get awfully confusing for at least our firefighters and potentially our police officers, because we're trained and used to, odd and even side of the road. I just raise it not so much for this request, but for the record, and also if this is a continuation, and I get the marketing and the address preference, but I just warn that if we continue doing this, it creates confusion among our public safety folks.
Thank you. Before you take the floor, Mr. Paolino, Councilman Vice Chairman Narducci.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I mean, first of all, we already set a precedence that we've done it in the past. I honestly will be favoring the project. I think at this point in time, new development, fixing up a building like they're going to be doing, spending the amount of money that they're going to be spending, it's going to create numerous jobs. I don't think we should be, opposed to changing an address. No disrespect to the firefighters, which I support 100%. But I don't see how it would be that big of an issue for the Providence Fire Department or the police department to find the building. Maybe an outsider, but the outsider is coming in to help at times. If they, again, like Mr. Paolino had said, if they're told the name of the hotel and where it is, I mean, it's not that hard to find. And like I said, and I know I'm repeating myself when I say this again, but I will say it again. At this point in time, We as a city right now are financially strapped. We need new businesses, we need new taxpayers, and we need new jobs. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Also, I want the other council members to be able to weigh in on this conversation. Obviously, we have two different sides. I'm going to ask if Councilwoman Costello's ready. I would like to hear her remarks and how she feel about what she's heard so far.
I listen the concern about it. Councilman Narducci, you're talking about jobs. When you're talking about jobs, I'm thinking about good jobs, not greedy jobs. And thinking like concern for the fire department. This is the confused. Downtown is already confused on some people because we have a one-way. And I really don't think like this is good.
I would like to call on Councilwoman, Council President Mathos.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I just want to point out, I was raising the hands with the feature on Zoom, and I noticed that Pro Tem and also has it on Councilman Taylor. I wanted to speak on favor of this resolution. I introduced the resolution in collaboration, also co-sponsored by Pro Tem. One of the reasons why I hear the concern that the commissioner has, and I hear his point, and I think it's something we need to keep in mind for future requests. But when I look at this request, the building that is more known right now, the most known building is the 100. So everyone already identified that location as 100. I don't have a problem with changing the numbers for the other two buildings right next to it, just because everyone is going to look at 100 and I'm going to be expecting that the buildings right next to them are going to be odd numbers. So I don't think that in this case it's going to create the level of confusion that it could create in other areas. So that's why I don't oppose to doing this change, and why I was willing to introduce this resolution. I just going for what we already have there. These two buildings are empty right now. There's two new businesses coming on online. Right now, it would not be practical to change the number of 100 Westminster, because we will have to change the address for many more businesses, and it would be more taxing. I believe that just changing the numbers for these two buildings is what makes sense for this instance. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President, and thank you for helping me acknowledge the. I have a Councilman Pro Tem Correa, and I would like to hear from him, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, I just want to echo the same words as the Council President and my other colleagues. I will be supporting this request. I don't see what the big deal of it is. We've done it in the past, and that moving forward, maybe we do need to be a little bit more mindful on these address changes. But this is going to bring economic growth to the downtown area, and bring two more buildings back online. So I will be supporting this request. And Madam Chair, when you're ready to accept the motion, I'm ready to make one.
Before I take your motion, and I will definitely call on you for that motion, I would like to hear from Councilman Taylor, who has his hand up. Council President, your hand is still up now that I've discovered hands.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to highlight on something. As being in the fire department for dispatch for 14 years, we use a lot of what they call as ghost addresses. So like One Financial Plaza was never One Financial Plaza before. John Poddington Way used to be Service Road, and there's plenty of roads that have been changed out there. And what we do is we put, when we're building them, because I did that for 14 years, we build up the CAD system, whether it's police or fire, we can put in whatever, I'm sorry, I didn't catch the name of the building, but say the Biltmore, we can put the Biltmore in, we can put Biltmore Hotel, we can put the address of Biltmore Hotel. There's several ways to put it in. And when you put it in during the CAD system, it brings it up to that address. It automatically goes to that address. Plus also, when each new building goes in, the fire department goes out, the first in do trucks, and they do what they call as a pink card. They go through the whole building, find out where the sprinkler system shut-offs are, the electric, the gas, yada, yada, yada. And they actually submit that card. They keep a card for themselves in the truck, and they submit that card to fire alarm dispatch. And dispatch has a copy of that card and also enters any pertinent information into the CAD. So I don't see a problem with it. We've been doing it for hundreds of years with different addresses. I mean, well, since the CAD system has been operating, and I myself have put in for 14 years different addresses. So it actually catches, like if someone don't know the address, they can just put in Biltmore and it automatically comes up the address and the companies will go there. And if there's mutual aid companies coming in, that's the job of the dispatch to relay. Plus, when mutual aid companies come in for a big event, they have what they call as bird dogs, which is a firefighter that actually rides with that company. So I don't see a problem with the fire department knowing where that address is. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Taylor. And I agree with my colleagues around the fact that it's not like it's a lot of buildings downtown, and we you know, even as we have our people that's working in the city, I think that's the most creative thing. I seen that in Philadelphia about 10 years ago when people were working out in the community, you know, even sweeping streets or whatever, they were directing people to addresses as well. So as far as the committee, I would like right now to take the motion from Councilman Pro Temp Pereira.
Councilman Espinal has his hand raised again.
Oh, okay. I didn't look and see his hand. All right. Sorry. I would like to hear from Councilman, and then we'll move on to
Madam Chair. That's no problem. That is completely understandable. I think you always need to be concerned when you make certain switches and it involve the public. However, as the commissioner acknowledged, they have this happened twice before. There have been 2 switches and there have not been any issues. So if you look at the downturn that our economic has taken as a result of the pandemic, if this was a time that we're going to make an exception, it will be now, because we're going to need major investment in our city in order to create jobs, in order to bring our financial life back together and bring vibrancy to our city. So I really have no problem supporting this. I actually thank Mr. Paolino for taking the initiative to bring such a economic boost to downtown. So I'll be supporting it as well. Thank you.
Before I take your motion, Pro Temp, I would like, I did Mr. Palin on the floor. I know he wanted to respond to what? Will we have some good jobs, Mr. Palino?
I hope to even open it up. Yes, I think they're going to be good jobs. You're going to have people working in a hotel and people working in a restaurant and people working in the office building. We've employed a lot of people there already. And by the way, a lot of them, the contractors that have been there and the workers in the construction trades have all been and will meet all the guidelines that you set up for us in regards to minority hiring. In fact, we're going to well surpass the guidelines and goals that you have established with us. I hope there'll be jobs. Let me state that I think the hotel will be ready to open up in September. I don't know if I'm going to open up in September. My people are telling me that with what's happening with this pandemic, it may not be appropriate to even open it until January. And that's going to be a tremendous financial hardship on my company because we're carrying this property with no revenues coming in. So quite frankly, I'm concerned. I think any hotel project in Providence, you should be concerned about what's going to happen We are now even looking into, if I have to transition it into apartments, I may even have to consider that, or at least extended stay, because of what's happening.
Thank you for your proactive thinking, Mr. Paolino. If there are apartments, I think you will still be a winner in the city. So at this time, I would like to take what was I doing? I was taking a motion from Pro Temp Correa. That's what I was doing.
So, Madam Chair, at this time, I would make a motion to approve item number 2.
Second motion.
And
I have Pro Temp Correa have made a motion to approve item number 2, second by Councilman Narducci. All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
The ayes. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
opposed.
For all the members of the city council, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just want to
Madam
note
Clerk.
that Councilwoman Castillo has stated she's opposed. Is that
Oh,
correct?
okay. I'm sorry. She was on mute. Okay. So we have one. We have 3 to vote. Madam Clerk.
Everyone, from what I understand, has voted for it except for Councilwoman Castillo. So that is 4 that approve it and 1 that does not.
Okay, let the record show. Thank you so much. Thank you for our guests, and thank you, Commissioner. Thank you for looking out for our city. Like Councilman Councilman Espinal said, you should do just that. Be very concerned. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Pauline.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. To all of you,
Bye-bye.
thank you very much.
Madam Clerk, have Wendy Nelson joined us?
No, Wendy Nilsson has not joined us. I tried to reach out to her through email and have not received a response back from her. And also Representative Slater has not joined us as well.
Okay. We could entertain item number 1 and just hear from Councilman Taylor and try to figure out what does he know about why this is a delay, and I'll leave it up to the committee to decide what we do.
I will read
Is that okay?
item number 1 into the record, which
Please
is a
read the item number 1 in the records, Madam Clerk.
yes, resolution requesting to rename Ardoin Park to Thomas Slater Park.
All right.
Madam
We
Chair,
have Councilman,
if I may,
Vice Chairman Narducci.
I guess my question is going to be addressed to the solicitor. This is a renaming of a park. Does that have to be voted on by the parks commissioners?
I'm not sure. I can find that answer out. Matter of fact, I can try and find it out as we're having the meeting right now.
If I may, Madam President, Madam Chair, sorry.
Oh, yes, no problem.
Not to talk. I want to address Councilman Narducci.
Okay, Councilman Narducci, Councilman Taylor obviously done found something out. Go ahead, Councilman Taylor. Will you let us know what you know?
Councilman, you are correct. I guess the resolution when I renamed the Waldo Street Park tot lot after Cheryl M. Fisher Allen, I had to go through the ERP committee first. It has to be passed, and then it's kicked back out into the Board of Commissions, and the Board of Commission, Park Commission, which you are a member of, makes the final decision. But it does have to pass through ERP.
Yeah, I thought the parks commissioners would have the final say, and maybe that's where the where Wendy Nielsen, I don't know, not showing up. So I guess we can just, Madam Chair, and just listen to the yeah, okay, I'm losing my train of thought. Listen to the sponsors and their reasoning, and then just get it out of the committee and let's do our thing.
I agree with you, Councilman Narducci, and I appreciate you for having such a clear direction. I would like to hear again from Councilman Taylor and reflect on us about why it's so important. And have you, for my question to you, have you got this reaction from your community as well as yourself wanting to rename it? Just let us know what the reflection of all this is.
Sure. So thank you, Madam Chair. And as we know, I'll just read a little. I didn't submit this, but I can submit it to the clerk. Just a little information I wrote up about Thomas C. Slater. He was a Democratic member of the Rhode Island House of Representatives. He served in the U.S. Marine Corps Reserve for 30 years, reaching the rank of Sergeant Major. He ran for office in 1994 and won and continued serving until his death in 2009. He was a member of the House Finance Committee, and he spoke against cuts to welfare benefits and children's health care, opposed an executive order cracking down on illegal immigrants living in the state, and supported new fire codes. Medical marijuana access was a large focus for Slater, and one of the final pieces of legislation that he sponsored involved the 2009 legalization of medicinal marijuana dispensaries in Rhode Island. He was a past Grand Knight and fourth degree member of the Cranston Knights of Columbus, a Catholic fraternal service organization. He was also a longtime member of the Providence Democratic City Committee. Tom Slater was married to Jody McKierman and had 3 children, Ellen, Gary, and Scott. He died on August 10, 2009 from lung cancer at his home in Providence. When Tom Slater died later in 2009, his son Scott Slater succeeded him in the position as Providence State Representative and is currently the state representative for this area. So with the work that's going on in Arduine, it's just named after the street. The street name is Arduine. It's not named after a person or anything. Some of the constituents in the area, actually before my time, when Leon Tejada was councilman, reached out and wanted to change the name at that time, but Councilman Tejada, I don't know, was busy or didn't do it. But I think it would be a good memory for what Tom did for this community. He, like I said, he was there in the Slater family. I actually wanted to do this before because his wife, Scott's mom, was very sick. Unfortunately, she passed away a couple weeks ago. But she knew that it was on the docket to be done. There's a lot of they're redoing the basketball court over there and the baseball court, and they did the playground. And I think it's fitting to name after the Tom C. Slater. I can't do Slater Park because they'll be going to Pawtucket, so we got to do the Thomas Slater Park. But I think it's fitting for someone that spent a lot of time helping out this community, especially, and I think it's fitting for the family, and that's it.
Thank you. I see that our superintendent, Wendy Nelson, have joined us. If we can take her off mute, we would love to hear what she feels about this item.
And Madam Chair, before we do that, if you want to enter what Councilman Taylor spoke about into the record as exhibit.
Oh, okay. He did say he had a document. Absolutely.
Forward that to me. If we can enter that as exhibit D.
Will do. I'll send it right now.
Thank you.
Motion.
Second.
A second motion by Councilman Narducci, second by Councilman Correa. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Okay, so we have a document entered into the record. Now we will hear from our superintendent of parks. Our parks are looking good, by the way.
Well, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry I wasn't on the call earlier. I said that I declined this invitation because I am in another meeting, but I just hopped on because it sounded like folks needed some information from me. Generally speaking, I don't get involved in the
I think she froze up.
What's that? Are you okay hearing me?
Tina?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So generally, I don't come before this committee. Sometimes I'm asked a question about whether or not there's any conflict or something like that, that we respond to in writing. But I just have not put a lot of, I haven't done any research on this. I'm just here to talk procedurally, that it's my understanding that that you would create this resolution and then that would be heard before the Board of Park Commissioners for their ultimate authority. So I think that's the only thing I have to add to this conversation.
That goes back to the question of the solicitor. So would we have to vote it out of the ERP committee? And when is that your knowledge as well?
Yeah, it actually doesn't matter, is my understanding. So whether or not there is a resolution or not, it would still go before the Board of Park Commissioners. It's always nice to have a resolution, but I don't believe it's necessary. And so it could still come before the Board of Park Commissioners with or without that. What I will say is that the Board of Park Commissioners right now, they have a moratorium on naming because they were revising the naming policy. And that has not been taken out of moratorium just yet. So I know hopefully it's something that we'll bring back up in the fall, or if there's another chance to meet later this summer. But generally we have summer's a slow time for the Board of Park Commissioners. But I see Councilman Narducci's on if he has anything to add to that as a park commissioner.
No, I just, Madam Chair, if I may, what I would ask is that when it's sent to the Parks commissioners, that the clerk please make sure that the statement that Chief Taylor read into the record here tonight accompany to the Parks commissioners and to the superintendent ahead of time.
So noted, Mr. Vice Chair.
I would also say that we would invite Mr. Councilman Taylor, as well as any folks that he would like to present testimony as well with that naming to the Board of Park Commissioners as well. So he would also have an opportunity to share why that's so important to him and the community.
Right. Thank you, Superintendent.
So Madam Chair,
Council Pro Temp. I'm sorry, I'm getting Council Vice Chairman Narducci.
At this point, I think it would be safe to say that we can just note this as a communication type thing, and just pass it out. And there's really like a vote to be made into a vote. In other words, a conference piece to be made into a vote. I wouldn't recommend to be made into a vote, just to pass it out.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, right, as read. Thank you, Tina.
So before we take that motion, I would like to say too that I would very much hope that the Parks Department really consider Mr. Tom Slater. For many of us remembered him, standing at our door with lots of long conversations about a lot of things. He knew a lot of things about a lot of things. Today, we are saying to our young people who are looking for history of who they are, we need to be able to record our history right here in Rhode Island and tell about our heroes, tell about our soldiers who going before us, but yet did really created things like fight for welfare rights and all of those things. I would like to see that probably if we push to have a little plaque with those things written in it. So we can have a reason when our kids walk by and say, who's that, to tell the story. I just wanted to add that, and I'm not taking precedent as the chair, but I would like to entertain a motion at this time.
Madam Chair, if I may.
I'm sorry, didn't mean to.
That is perfectly okay, Madam Chair. I just want to echo the words of Mr. Councilman Taylor in regards to former Rep. Slater. I think he's very well deserving of this honor. I think Mr. Slater is a current and modern time local hero, and this is long overdue. It would be an honor for me to vote in favor of this. Thank you so much.
Chairwoman, can you still hear us, or have you frozen?
Who?
looked like she froze.
Looks like she froze, or she does that pretty good.
Tina,
Yes,
I lost connection and I had to come back.
I believe that is what happened to the chairwoman. If we could just give her a moment to try to reconnect.
You gave me a hard time reconnecting.
Tina, you did receive the email, correct?
I have not received that yet.
Come on, Chief.
I sent it.
Did you spell my name correctly, sir?
I just put in E and it automatically went to you because I send you so many.
I know.
MASTROIANANNI.
Correct.
Yep. I'll send it again, but I don't know. Maybe because I send them after midnight. Maybe it's not used to. Oh, no.
Let's remember we're live.
I know. I mean, I do a lot of stuff at nighttime. That's what I'm talking about.
And just to I think the questions to, I guess, back it up. I did speak with another solicitor who's handled this stuff in the past, and certainly the council can make recommendations, but the home rule charter does grant the Board of Parks Commissioners wide authority with regard to parks, including naming. So it would have to go before the Board of Parks Commissioners. They would vote, and then they could change the name.
She's back.
Yes, so, of course, as I disappeared, we were about ready to take a motion, so we got another hearing from the solicitor who said the Parks Department has the final say. But we all, I think our Councilman Espinal had something to say. He probably already said it, but I can hear it.
I did.
We don't have to repeat the record. I can listen at the video.
Thank you, Tina. Were you able to get that from me?
Was I able to get? Yes, I do have your testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Madam Chair, make a motion to approve.
Motion been made by Vice Chairman Narducci to approve. I think second by Councilwoman Castillo, Councilman Espinal. All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Madam Chair, hearing no other business, make a motion to adjourn if proper.
Motion been made to adjourn. Second? Second by Councilman Espinal. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No opposition. Everybody be safe. Keep yourself healthy, and the next Zoom meeting. I've been on 4 already today.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.